everybody, and welcome to a special episode. We have Paul Abraham on the show. Paul, welcome.
I appreciate you having me here. I enjoy doing these kind of events, and as you can tell, Chris, like you and I talked a little bit before, everybody's going, "Wait, is this a sales call? What is this guy doing? Is he on Duck Dynasty or?"
So, for those of you that are just listening on iTunes, so Paul is with us and he's in full camo. He's got a little bit of the face paint on. He's got a rifle in the background. Looks like he's like fresh out in the hunt. So
There you go. Look, and this is my farm, my property. So again, I can kind of give you an idea about on about a 40-acre farm in Georgia.
oh, that's beautiful.
Yeah. Thank you.
That's awesome. Well, so Paul is a leader in the mortgage space and runs one of the largest Facebook communities for new loan officers and is really just helping our community. And I've seen some great advice in there. So I wanted to have you on the show to share your wisdom here with our group.
Appreciate that. Yeah, well, real brief on me, Chris. I've been in the business for 31 years, and I've been teaching new loan officers for 21, and mainly in the state of Georgia. As you can tell, I'm not from California, right? But long story short is I love, love, love. About the time I got 10 years in, I had people coming to me. I wasn't really recruiting, wasn't trying to recruit, but just people coming to me like a printer, a person selling stuff coming through the office. And I'd say, "Hey, I think you ought to get in the mortgage business. I think I can teach you, make more income." And I genuinely started teaching new LOs. But back in the day, you would do it one at a time. I don't know. How long have you been in the business?
15 years.
Yeah. All right. So back in the day, you did it one-on-one. You brought them into the office and started teaching them how. Well, I did that one after another, one after another, one after another, until we got around. I don't know. It's probably close to 75 loan officers on my team in Georgia.
Oh, wow.
And yeah, we helped run a company called Homestar Financial out of North Georgia markets here. And they, number one, transactionally, probably about the 10, 15 years that I know that they were pretty, in transactionally volume wise.
Yep.
So we started running on top of each other because we just got so many. And then COVID happened. And when COVID happened, that's when the guy that owned the company, Wes Hunt, said, "Hey, I want to go national." Right.
Yeah.
So we went to a national scene. And that's the first time that I'd ever even looked at the national scene and never had been on the national scene and literally saw I think I was watching the Super Bowl and Facebook ran an ad and said, "Hey, start your own Facebook group with people that that you like to talk with." And I said, "Huh, that's an idea. We're going national." And I just said, "I'm going to start a Facebook group, call it New Loan Officer Group." And initially, Chris, it was just my team. I was talking to my team and I was teaching them. I said, "Hey, everybody start corresponding with me over here." And I was doing it with my team. And then what I began to notice is that Facebook was putting others in there that looked like my team.
Got it.
And before I turned around, there's 5,000. The next time I turn around, there's 10. Next time I turn around, there's 15. I think we're getting close to 50,000 now in the group. And I had no idea. I didn't even know, Chris, there was that many loan officers in the country. If you want to just know the truth about it, I really didn't know that there was that many out there even in the country. So anyway, and what I began to realize was that many of these, the industry itself left a huge gap for a person new in the industry. And I began to see it because of the questions that they were asked, the things that they were saying. Basically, I would use the term sales and marketing was not high on the list of teaching a new LO.
Yep.
And that's when I began to realize, wow, the industry has left a huge gap. Now, I understand why now more, but I thought all of them were teaching them like I was. I thought that they were all, spending time showing them how to talk to the agent, what to say, how to say it, how do you get their attention, what are the things that you can do to grow the business, right? Those things like that. I really thought most companies were doing what I was doing. And when I got to the national scene, I started seeing companies saying, hey, we don't even want to talk to you unless you've been doing it 2 years, right?
Right.
Yeah. But anyway, I have always enjoyed that category. And I think I'll probably retire out with that category. I've got about 10 years left in me, Chris, and then I'm done.
That's
Um,
awesome.
yeah.
And to see that on the horizon. So Paul, so being so close to new loan officers, what is the number one question that you see when it comes to sales and marketing? Like, what's the number one thing that you see over and over in the group where you really have the most value to give to those people?
Yeah. The number one is how do I get a realtor to talk to me?
Mm,
Right? How do I get one to meet with me? Um, if I'm cold calling them, what do I say? Right? It's all related to getting the business. Out of 21 years of teaching newer LOs, the phrase I came up with, and you may have seen me post this in the group the other day, but I said this: mostly loan officers that are new don't understand the amount and the volume of people that they've got to get in front of to create the momentum to stay in the business.
yep.
Most of them don't understand that ratio. Now, in other words, I'll give you an example. When I say you got to build a realtor team, most of them 1, 2 years in the business, I'll say, how many do you have? And it's like two, five, something like that. And I say, you're not even close. You're not even close to the number that you've got to get in front of. Now, I learned that not from the mortgage industry. I did to a degree, but back in the day, and this was my late teens, I was actually selling magazines on the phone to people all over. I was in one of those boiler rooms, right, where they're all calling. And what I figured out when I was in that industry was that these guys knew how to make the phone ring, right? They knew how to get people to call you. They knew how to get people to respond. And so in my mind, that's what I had to do on the real estate side. Now, when I first got into it, my mom was a realtor, and I thought everybody worked as hard as my mom did getting the business.
Right.
And see, again, not knowing, all I had to do was compare her and say, all right, they must be all working like she is. She lived out of her trunk, her MLS book in the back seat, and I had to sit around in the back seat with signs all around me and that type of stuff. But here's what I did learn from my mom is that when I got out there and started meeting realtors, I was like, this Susie Q here is not even no one, she knows me, she likes me, and she would send me a deal if she had a deal. That's the problem. See, most loan officers, Chris, they go in with the assumption that realtors getting leads. I actually assume that they're not getting leads.
Right.
Yeah,
Yep.
and you know what? I'm right about 85, 90% of the time. That's
Hmm.
what I began to realize, that I was right 85% of the time. And that's the area where I try to show the loan officer come in from the angle that they need the most. They have plenty of loan officers calling them every day saying, hey, I've got loan products to share with you, right? How many times, Chris, can I tell a realtor about a 30-year fixed rate mortgage,
Right.
right? There's only so many ways I can sell that. There's only so many ways I can spit that out.
Yep.
And the truth is, when I approach a realtor, that's the first thing I say is that, hey, I just want you to know I'm not going to be here talking about 30-year fixed rate mortgages today.
Right.
I'm gonna try to help you grow. But anyway, to answer your question, it's almost always out of 21 years, me seeing it, it's the sales and the marketing side is what causes them to fail. Not understanding a 30-year fixed is usually not the problem.
Yep.
Running a credit report, understanding what the score is, that's not the problem. The problem is there's just not enough of those things coming in, especially in today's market, right?
Yep. Yeah.
Especially today. Matter of fact, I heard the numbers. You may know this better than me. That we're going back to 1995 transactional volume. I don't know if
I had
that's
not
true or
heard
not.
that.
Yeah, I've heard 1995, but anyway, to me it doesn't matter. They're still closing deals, right?
Yeah.
So, yeah, the question is, who cares what the number is? Somebody's still closing it. Can you get part of that market share? Right?
Yep. Oh, 100.
Somebody's closing it.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And so I saw another stat the other day that roughly 87% of mortgage deals that fund are coming through a referral. And I noticed you immediately went to the realtor referral component of like, how are you going to grow the business? So do you find realtor referrals like that's the easiest and best way to grow a mortgage business?
I do. And the main reason I do is because number one, they have been the number one source, right?
Yep.
Number two is you're both looking for the same client,
Yep.
right? So
Mm-hmm.
we're looking for the same client. They've been the number one source. The difference is on what I teach, Chris, is that your realtor is coming to my team, not me going to your team.
Right.
Now, I don't mean that to be cocky. What I mean by that is I think I can help you grow your business because when I found out that 85% of them quit, my in my head, I'm going, well, why am I talking to realtors about loan products when loan products is not the main issue?
That's right.
Loan products, now I'm not saying don't learn your loan products. I'm not saying don't have great products, right? What I'm saying is that's not the realtor's number one issue. If you help the realtor grow, and we talk about leads, we talk about listings, we talk about sales and marketing, and I help you grow in those areas, guess what? It naturally feeds the mortgage business,
Yep.
right?
Yeah, that's
In
right.
other words, basically this, if I get you going on sales and you start creating business, you're going to need my services,
That's
right?
right. Yep.
So what I do is teach the loan officer, give first, right? Don't go to the realtor begging her for a deal. I don't know about you, but they used to tell me, Paul, take your rate sheet, box of donuts, your card, show up at their office and beg for a deal, right? Hey, Chris, I hated that, right?
Mm-hmm. Oh yeah.
I hated that, not because I could do it, right? But I never was getting to the realtor. They would just say, set those things there. And I'm like, man, this is frustrating for me to go in and they won't even, the gatekeeper won't even let me buy, right?
Yep.
And
Yeah.
the reason is when I looked on the table, there was another 40 other boxes of donuts with everybody's cards there. And see, that's when I started recognizing, hey, Paul, you got to be different, right? You got to stand out some way, somehow.
That's right.
And in my own head, I said this. I said, if I have to rely on the realtor to feed my family, uh, I'm not really hunting like I'm hungry. Right now, again, at that point, all I knew is I needed to make some money to pay my bills and feed my kids, right? My family, take care of my family.
Yep.
I just began to realize I cannot wait on that to happen.
Mm-hmm.
Now I don't mind working with you as a realtor, right? I didn't mind working with them, but I can't wait on you, right? If I wait on you, I'm going to probably starve and get out of the business. Yeah.
Yep.
Because, see, by the way, I didn't even know 85% of them quit then. See, I thought they were all working hard as I was, right?
That's
But
right.
anyway, I know I'm going around a bend a lot to get to that answer, but I just want you to see that's my philosophy.
No, and it's totally true. And what we
Yeah.
do is we provide everybody with a qualified agent list. So here's your marketplace. Here's the list of the real estate agents that have done, 8 or more buy-side transactions in the last
Yep.
12 months. Here's where you want to focus your efforts. Here's where you want to provide value. Here's where you want to be having those specialty conversations.
Yep. Now and again, and not to disagree, but I don't mind that issue that you just said there.
Mm,
I just think of it as all realtors are on my team.
mm,
How can I help them all grow? And I can do that because of social now, right? Meaning I can have a meeting, and I'm going to give you this example. This is not to impress Chris, but to express, right?
yeah.
My son started with me 5 years ago, and anybody's welcome to follow him. Jonah Abraham. By the way, he's the one that missed the big deer. Yeah,
Nice. All right.
Jonah Abraham. And listen, all he knew was to listen to his dad because that's all he'd done his whole life. Matter of fact, the joke is him, his brother, and his sister would be in the back seat, and I would turn around and say, "Shut up, I'm on the phone." Right? So he'd have to listen to me. Anyway, he got into the business, and in 5 years' time, the kids made about $2.5 million as an originator in these last 5 years.
That's
Now,
awesome.
again, I want you to see this. I taught him the same thing that I just kind of went over to you in a nutshell: is you got to help the realtors grow, and when you bring value and help them grow. Long story short, 5 years, he's got about 200 realtors on his team. And I promise you, they're not all fitting that category that you're talking about, right?
Right. Yep.
But out of that 200 that he keeps his brand in front of consistently, that's the key with social, consistently posting.
Hmm.
Then out of that 200, he'll get 30, 40, 50 leads coming from that group in a given month. Now, sometimes it might be this realtor, that realtor, but he's consistently getting 30, 40, 50 leads, and he'll typically close 10, 15, 20,000 a month. And he's 5 years in, turning wrenches 5 years ago at Honda, helping them build motors,
Wow.
right? So again, and in this market that we're in, you have to be thinking many more than just this, because by the way, the model that many of that teach right there would be reaching out to the buy side agent, right?
Yep.
Well, there's a phrase in real estate that says this: if you learn to list, you'll last in the business,
That's
right?
right. Yep.
See, so I'm not only talking about buy side agents, I'm talking about list side agents, I'm talking about bad agents, I'm talking about good agents, I'm talking about agents, right? But I need a lot of those on my team,
That's
right?
right.
I need a lot, right? But it's the same concept, and I know what you mean. I'm not disagreeing. I just say I think of them all on my team, right?
That's amazing. And I
Yeah,
and I agree, because you never know when the deal is going to come, and you never know who's going to be that next top agent or that one that
exactly.
comes
You
out,
just
right?
said it. You just said it right there. In other words, listen, even if I'm working with 100 new ones, chances are 15 of them in that crowd are going to be go-getters, right?
Yep.
That's the good part. See, that's what I'm looking for, is who are those go-getters like Jonah? He's probably got 30, 40, 50 of them that are his top, his A producers, but
Yep.
he's still got that other, 150, 175 that are, sending him something every quarter, every 6 months. It's that stay-at-home mom. She likes doing a deal every quarter. Guess what? That stay-at-home mom who got that lead, I can guarantee you, my friend, that's going to be a good lead because it's one of her family members who just says, feel sorry for her and says, hey, let me do a deal with Susie over here. She doesn't get much. I'm going to try to help the family. And those, by the way, are the best leads in the category,
Yep.
right? You don't
Yep.
get a lot of them, but those are the best.
That's right. And
Which,
so, sorry, go ahead, Paul.
but in this day, we need every loan officer, every new, especially new ones. You need to be, you
Oh
need to be
boy, here we go.
shooting. Yeah, look at this. You need to be shooting at everything, right? You don't have an opportunity when you're new to decide I don't want to do this deal or that deal. Now, when you get the Jonah stage and you're doing 15, 20, you can afford to lose a deal. But when you're new, you can't afford to lose a deal. That might be 100% of your pay that month, right?
Right. Yep.
Hey, my first deal was a $65,000 down payment assistance in Atlanta. They called it GRAFA, Georgia Home Finance Authority, out of the state of Georgia. I think I got cussed out by all the realtors. It took us 120 days to close it, and everybody hated me in that process. But you know what? I closed that deal, right?
Mhm.
Now, it wasn't fun, and I'm not saying every deal is fun, and I understand not every deal is going to be a $400,000 deal. But when you're new, you don't really need to pick and choose. You got to figure out how to feed your family the next month, right?
That's right.
You better hunt like you're hungry.
That's awesome. And so, Paul, you touched on something that I think is super valuable, which is going out and building relationships with listing agents. So, how do you teach loan officers to do that? What does that look like?
Good question. So number one, if you're listing, you last, right? So remember that phrase. If you help a realtor get to listings, she will last in the business, because what does a listing do for a realtor, Chris? You tell me.
Brings in all the buyers.
Exactly. You see, now you can start to understand why a listing agent, Gary Keller, said in his book, The Millionaire Real Estate Agent, if you learn to list, he's got his 3 L's. Now you last in the business, right? Because it brings more leads. Kind of start hearing an L theme here. Listings create leads, and leads create leverage, which really what he's saying is it creates money, right?
Yeah.
That's exactly what it does. But now, to answer your question, how do I help them get that? I might say something like this. Let's say that I saw a realtor on Facebook, and she is, what state are you in?
So I'm actually from Canada, but currently I'm in Florida.
Okay, so let's use Florida as an example. So I see a realtor on Facebook, and I see her posting things about Florida markets or whatever. She's a realtor. And I say something like this: hey, I noticed that you're in the Florida markets. Can you list in all of the Orlando area? Now, notice the question, Chris. I'm asking her what she does. I'm not calling her to sell her something, right?
Right. Yep.
I'm asking her a question. What does she do? She comes back and says, "Oh yes, I'm glad you noticed. I'm here in Orlando. Yeah, I can list in all of Orlando." I say, "Great. Hey, I'm calling on the for sale by owners in that area, and I've noticed that within a 3, 4, 5 week period that they want to list with an agent. Is there anything you can do as an agent that creates a deal or a special for these for sale by owners?" She's going to come back and say, "Oh yes, I do this and that for sale by owners." Right? Is this making sense?
This makes total sense. Yep.
All right. Then I say, "Great. Hey, are you a full-time agent?" She
Yep.
says, "Yes." But now I want you to notice something, Chris. I'm interviewing her.
Yep.
She's not interviewing me. Right?
Right.
Now, I don't mean that to be cocky, but I want you to see the positioning is not me calling or saying, "Hey, I do loans. Uh, I've got these great products, and here's how fast I am, and here's how great we are."
Yep.
I'm asking her, what does she do? What does she offer? And then she starts telling me how good she is, right?
Yep.
It's basically this. It's a flip of the script, right?
Mm-hmm.
You know, and I know 95% of loan officers, they go begging for the next deal. How
Right.
do you give me a next deal? So long story short, I say, "Hey, I'm going to be interviewing a few agents, and I'll be doing that Tuesday. Can you hop on a call with me then?" "Yes." "What time?" 9. Now, I didn't know that girl from Adam.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't know her from Adam. I've never met her. And yet I just saw her as a realtor post, and she might have even sent me an ad, which, by the way, there's a little strategy when you respond to realtors' ads. Facebook will ask you, "Do you want to see more of these?" You know what I do? I go, "Yes, yes, yes. Send me more."
It
You know why? Because, Chris, if they're advertising, what are they looking for?
leads.
That's right.
Mm.
That's exactly right. They're not calling looking for another loan officer. I promise you, they got 50 of those guys calling them every day saying, "Hey, I've got these products I can share. Promise you we'll do good." And she says, "Hey, thanks for calling, Paul. You're like the 50th favorite loan officer that called me today and said you got loan products.
Mm.
Send me an email and let's talk next year." Right? What that really means is bye-bye. Have a nice day.
Yep. Now, so the
Okay, so
physical
let's
side.
real quick. I want to show you how to get the listing. Can I show you that real
Okay.
quick?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
So you really do call the for sale by owners in that area, right? So in other words, I'm called and I've got a for sale by owner, and I say to the for sale by owner, "Hey, would you be okay? I'm a lender here in Florida. Would you be okay if I help advertise your property on social? There's many of our buyers that are in groups, Facebook area. They don't know about your property because you're not listed in the MLS." And he says, "Sure, if you're not going to charge me anything, knock yourself out, Paul. I wish you would help me." So I start advertising it in Marketplace, Facebook groups, Instagram, Pinterest, uh, anywhere I can get it, I'm going to post it. And when I do, Chris, there's 2 categories of people start calling Paul. Guess who they are?
Buyers.
Yeah, that's one. Who else? Who else taught to call for
Realtors.
sale by owner? That's right. Is there anything better to call Chris, the loan officer, than buyers and realtors? Right? And that
Yep.
answer's no, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, there's nothing better. That's my target market, right? But let's just say that I create a buyer off that deal.
Okay.
And I called that agent, Susie Q, back in Orlando and said, hey, I told you about this for sale by owner strategy I'm doing. I just picked up a buyer from it. Can you show them property over in this area, you know, blah, 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 whatever it is. I want to show him the for sale by owner because he does qualify. But can you show him 2 other properties so he has other options to look at? Now, what do you think she's going to say? No,
Yes,
I don't. No, I
please.
don't need a lead. Yeah. All right. Now, if you carry this a little further, I stay in touch with that for sale owner and I say, hey, I'm going to run the post again next week. But before
Okay.
I do, can you tell me where you're at in your head on this idea of listing? 1 means you're not, 10 means you're thinking about calling one. Where are you at there on a realtor call? He says, I'm at a 7. I say, good. I'm glad you told me that. I've got a friend that works with me there in Orlando. She does a deal and a special for my for sale by owners. I'm going to have her reach out and share how she can help you save money on this listing. What's a for sale by owner trying to do, Chris?
They're trying to sell that house.
And he's trying to save money at the same time, right?
That's right. Yep.
Now, if I get that girl a listing appointment, or if I get her a listing opportunity, and by the way, 8 out of 10 end up listing, right? But if I get that realtor that appointment, Chris, I'm going to be better than 99% of loan officers walking around out there. Most loan officers never talk about listings.
Wow. Yeah, you're
And
right.
yet, it's the number one thing that realtors are taught to get.
Hmm.
It's the number one thing that realtors are taught to get is a listing, right? Their
Wow.
coaches, their brokers are saying, why don't you try to go get a listing,
Yep.
right? See, and listen, a for sale by owner, when I'm trying to help him for free, that creates the relationship of free, right? Now, I'm not saying don't try to help him. I just want you to know that 8 out of 10 end up saying, I think it's time for me to call a realtor.
Yep.
I just want to make sure it's one of my team members getting that listing.
Yep.
That's the reason that you want to come to Paul's team. I'm not coming to your team to beg you for a deal. I want you to come to my team so I can help you grow.
Yeah.
My objective with realtors is not to get leads out of them. That's a reciprocal that I actually get. My goal is to help them grow their business.
Right.
Isn't that a much better conversation, right? When you help them grow and you genuinely try to help them grow. So I help them on leads. I help them on listings. I help them on sales. So if I said this on the sales side, I'm going to help my realtor team get conversations with people at a coffee shop. Maybe it's a business meeting. How do I turn the conversation to a real estate idea so that I can, and I'll give you an example. I heard this girl on YouTube said she made $1 million in 1 year off one question. You ready for this one?
I'm ready.
Yeah, this was a realtor, by the way. She said, and I said, hey, I'm a sales marketing guy. I'm going to listen to that and see what this girl says. She said, hey, for the right price, would you consider selling? And I thought, that's it. That's the question that got you $1 million, right?
Yep.
Now, Chris, even if she was halfway lying to me, that's still 500,000, right?
Right. Yep.
Maybe even a quarter, that's still 250, right?
Yep.
Okay, I just want you to see. So what I did is I said, okay, I'm a sales marketing guy. I'm going to test it. I go to a south side of Atlanta with a realtor and loan officer, and I'm helping them both get more deals. And I said to the girl that handed me the coffee, I said, hey, I'm here for a real estate meeting. Have you thought about buying a home this year? She looked at me and said, actually, I already own one. And as soon as she said that, Chris, it hit me. I should ask that question that the girl said to ask. So I said, well, hey, for the right price, would you consider selling it? She turned and said, yes, I would. Hey, the first time, Chris, I used that little strategy, the girl said, yes. I actually laughed with her and I said, look, I'm really here for a meeting And I said, I know you're working. Can I trade numbers with you and we'll get back with you and let you know later what it's worth? She said, sure. Long story short, I got the realtor, me call. When we did, the girl listed the property. We sold it 2 weeks later and we got the mortgage on it. And that was a coffee shop question that I asked. And the girl said she made $1 million. Well, guess what? I started teaching all my team, all my loan officers, you should start asking this question because it creates more conversations about real estate. And I don't care if you're a loan officer or a realtor, you need more conversations about real estate,
Yep,
right?
that's right.
Conversations, you already know this 17 years in, conversations equal closings, period.
Yep.
If you get more conversations, you're going to get more closings. So I teach my realtors how to get more conversations. And that means role play. That means rebuttals. That means, how do I say it? What do I say? A lot of times when I ask a loan officer, I'll say, look, if you called me and they said, hey, thanks for calling me, Joe, the loan officer, but I've already got a lender. I appreciate you calling me. That, you know what most of them do? They just say, okay, and they hang up the phone. They just give up. They,
Yep.
no rebuttal, no, okay. And I say, hey, you're not even going to compete for that business? You're
Yep.
not even going to try? The guy said he's wanting to buy. You're not even going to try to, you're just going to give up? I had one girl the other day. She said, yeah, I really wouldn't want to get that from another loan officer. And I was like, oh, okay, I'm not sure you're going to make it, right? I said, you better start hunting like you're hungry, because what if that guy's getting 20 like my son? I think he can afford to lose one,
Right.
right? Yeah. You're starving. You got to get a deal in the door, right? All right. Anyway, I know, man, I'm doing all the talking. You're not doing any of the talking.
Oh, that's what a podcast is. No, and
Good.
Paul, yeah, just great. Now, did I hear you say that of the FISBO appointments that you book with realtors, 8 out of those 10 FISBOs will list with a realtor?
Well, let's just say it this way: 8 out of 10 for sale by owners will end up listing with a realtor.
Wow. I
Yeah.
had
See,
no idea.
I understand. And again, now you can see, Chris, why I study more about what realtors go through and their numbers than I do what loan officers go through. Because, as you can almost tell, I'm sort of teaching a loan officer, you need to assume this coaching position, this encouragement position, a way to help your realtors get better at what we know they're not good at. And I
Yep.
don't mean that in a bad way. I'm not saying that they're bad people. I'm just telling you they don't know how to get a conversation. So if I help my team and she goes out there and does something I say, and all of a sudden she calls me back and said, Paul, I just got a lead off what you just gave me.
Yep.
I'm getting the mortgage, right? I just created a salesperson, right?
Yep.
That's what I did. I just created one. Even if I'm a brand new rookie loan officer, I just created a salesperson that's doing what I'm doing. See, that goes back to what I was telling you in the beginning. When I said to myself early in my career, I was like, if I have to wait on this realtor to get me a deal, I'm probably going to starve.
Yep.
So you know what I did, Chris? I started going out and creating my own deal. Now, once I learned that, that's the area that I started to realize I could use that lead as leverage to get me in front of a realtor. Right?
Yep. Yep.
So let me give you the leverage spot that we just said. If
All right.
you get a for sale by owner to say yes to you, that now is a leverage position for me as a loan officer. I go on a Facebook group and I say this: I'm looking for a realtor in Orlando that can help me with a for sale by owner property, 500K. Let's just say that's the price. I just did a little bitty post in a group of realtors and I said, I'm looking for a realtor in Orlando to help me with a for sale by owner property. The number one thing that they're taught to call. And when you do, Chris, just sit back and watch your DM messages. Ding, ding, ding. It begins. That's the fish, right? You just threw out a piece of shark bait with blood in the middle of the ocean. and it will draw sharks left and right. And by the way, when I say sharks, what is a go-getter agent always looking for? What's one that is a producer looking for?
They're looking for leads.
That's right. They're looking for leads and listings. So the very thing that I'm talking about is the very thing that the realtor's looking for. If I would have said, hey, y'all, in this realtor group, I just want y'all to know I'm the greatest loan officer. I got the greatest rates. I got the great fast speed. Not one of them's going to call me back,
Right.
probably.
Yep.
But as soon as I put something in there that they want, they're going to blow your phone up trying to get to you. And guess who taught me this? Zig Ziglar. You ever heard of him?
Yeah, I love Zig.
Hey, he said this, Chris, if you help enough people get what they want, you'll
Yep.
always have what you want, right?
Yep.
That's all I did is I began to listen to Zig Ziglar, Jim Rohn, growing through my early career. And I was like, all right, I need to figure out a different way. I need to come up with a different strategy because everybody was taking donuts and rate sheets to the office, right?
Yep.
And I didn't like that anyway. So what I would do is I'd get up at 4 a.m. in the morning. Now, this was back in the 90s. And I would drop flyers from 4 a.m. to 8 o'clock in the morning at apartment complex. And the reason I did it for 4 hours was by the time 4 to 8 got there, the maintenance men wouldn't catch me. I'd already be done, right? I would put the flyers out. The people would call me. I would get the lead. And instead of me taking a rate sheet and a box of donuts, I would take the lead to the office and say, hey, I forgot my rate sheet and box of donuts, Miss Secretary, but I've got a lead that I talked to this morning. And we're wanting to interview some agents to see if, who he likes to take out and show him property. Have you got one in here that can show him, 150,000 in Atlanta? Hey, Chris, they would all come to the front to meet Paul then. They would
Hmm.
all come to the front to meet Paul.
Yeah.
If I took my break sheet and donuts, hey, sit it there and maybe they'll call you, maybe they won't. But as
Yeah.
soon as I took a lead, listen, they wanted to talk to me. And so
That's really cool.
that's the
Yeah,
way I
'cause
did it.
I got started with Google Ads. So I
Yeah,
was using Google Ads to generate home buyer leads, and
yeah,
then I would use the leads and the system for the leads to open up the conversations with the top producers. Uh,
correct. Yeah.
Very
Now,
interesting. Paul.
I didn't know that. I really did. I just began to say I got to come at it differently, right?
Yep. That's
And
amazing.
that's what I did. And that's been 31 years ago.
Isn't it funny? The strategies change, but the provide value to earn the conversation and then
Never
providing
changes.
coaching to maintain the relationship is how you win it long term. You know?
Correct. And that's exactly so everything we just said has a lot of work in it, right? But if you think you're going to do this business without work, I would quit today because it's harder. It's harder now. However, let me say this. I think that the marketing has actually gotten easier.
Yeah.
I
Hmm.
think it's gotten easier because of what we're doing right now, right? Hey, listen, you're talking to a guy that was raised on a chicken farm in North Georgia who barely passed high school, and somehow I'm coaching or influencing 50,000 loan officers in this group, right? Hey, I promise you, I did not see that happening 6 years ago. I was not, I promise you, this guy was not expecting what happened there. And now all I can tell you is it's kind of one of those things where you say, oh, wow, this is, this is much bigger than I thought that it would ever be.
Amazing.
But anyway, you add everything that I just said. And then when you do a deal with a realtor, you become the Chick-fil-A loan officer, is what I say. Become the Chick-fil-A. There's two different fast foods that I can get a chicken sandwich and a sweet tea from, KFC or Chick-fil-A.
Hmm.
And every time I go to Chick-fil-A, they always impress me, Chris, with their service, their quality. And every time I go into a KFC, I go, why did I do this? Why did I put myself through this? Right. And
Yep, I would agree with that.
I'm telling you, that's when you become the Chick-fil-A loan officer, because when you do the deal, and you get to send that listing or that lead to that realtor. And then she says, hey, most loan officers are coming at me begging me to send them a deal. You just gave me one. So let's use the term, why don't you try giving first? Give first.
Yep.
This is the reason, Chris, so many people say my name in that group is because I really get on the phone and I really try to help them first,
Yep.
right? I don't try to recruit them. I don't try to sell them something. I don't try to give them a coaching program. I really try to help them first. And then they go, Paul, man, you just gave me an hour of your time. I learned more from you in an hour than I did 2 years with my guy, right? And that's when they say, how can I help you? I say, listen, anytime you want to give me a shout out, I'll take it, right? If you give me a shout out, I don't pay them to shout out. They just keep shouting out, right?
That's amazing.
Yeah. And anyway, that long story short, you just gotta, that's where you consistently build the brand, right?
Yep.
Build the brand. And I think of you as the brand, not the company. Now, I'm not saying that I'm not quoting one company or another. All I'm telling you is I think of the loan officer as the company. As you can tell, I think of me as the brand, not the
Yep.
company.
Yep. Absolutely.
Yeah. And then people do business with a know, like, and trust,
Yep.
right? You get that, it's over. You don't have to sell anymore. Now you just have to service, right?
Yep.
You don't have to sell anymore. Once you get that business coming in, you're servicing those accounts, right?
That's
You're
right.
servicing.
And you earn the business through excellent service, but also
Correct.
asking for the referrals. It's so much easier once you get that deal to then get the referrals, to the other professionals that you're working with in the deal.
100%. Yeah. Oh yeah,
So
you can go a lot of ways with that.
yeah,
At the end of the day, if you provide the quality like Chick-fil-A, there's 100 waiting in line to get a chicken sandwich and a sweet tea, and I look across and there's 4 at KFC, right?
yep,
And it's not because Chick-fil-A is like saying, will you send me a referral every time? It's because they do great service. And
yep,
then people just saying, man, I love what you just put me through, right?
yep.
That really does become. Now, again, I'm not saying don't ask for the business, right? I agree with you. But the quality of the service probably solves the problem of getting the referral, right?
That's right.
When you really do a good job. And that, now again, that being said, in the beginning, you need to be asking everybody, right? You need to be, you need to be hunting, shooting at everything.
That's amazing.
I
Paul.
hope you got enough hunt like you're hungry today.
Well, that was absolutely fantastic. Thank you for sharing with us. Where do people go to find out more about you?
The best place to go, honestly, is on Facebook, Paul Abraham. I'm not on IG. I'm not on any of Twitter. My wife said if you get one more social account, I'm going to have to retire you early, right? Uh, that being said, you can certainly join my group. It's called the New Loan Officer Group. You're welcome to get in there. I've got 25, 30-year veterans that are in that group. And again, just what you said, Chris, a lot of the veterans, they've already done the hunting before and they got the business and then it's went away. And now they're saying, well, how do I get to the new style of the method, right? And that you and we've made that conversion to social, right?
Mm-hmm.
That's where everybody's attention is. That's
Yep.
where everybody's looking at their phone. Nobody's looking at billboards and TV. If you do, matter of fact, even on TV, and does anybody even have a newspaper anymore? Is there such thing as a newspaper anymore? I don't know.
There is, but
Yeah,
at our house, it either goes in the fire pit to help us in
yeah,
the fire pit, or it goes
exactly. Yeah.
straight to
So
the recycle.
I just say to you, if you're older in the business, you got to flip the switch and change the method. If you don't, you're going to go out of business, right? Because your new generation is not afraid.
Yep.
They're not afraid. They're not afraid of social.
Yep. And I
So,
saw a really interesting stat. I think it was 35% of all mortgages that were funded in the last year were first-time homebuyers.
oh yeah, yeah. It's well, listen, there was a guy that taught me in the early stages of my career when I got a branch. He said, Paul, if you will always stay and stick close to the first time home buyer, you'll always pay your bills, always.
Hmm.
And you know what, Chris? It's never, not ever been a part of, it's always been a part of my business. It's
Hmm.
always been a part, right? And especially for a new loan officer. Every new loan officer ought to be thinking first time home buyers.
Yep.
Matter of fact, this last tip, and I'm not done. Okay, I'm going to give you one more strategy that can help.
All
You
right.
still okay on time?
Absolutely.
In my opinion, out of 31 years of marketing, I have never seen anything work better than a Facebook group that lets you create something of a target market that you're looking for, right?
Hmm.
And I share that with people because look at mine. I called it the new loan officer group, and yet it is one of the biggest Facebook groups for loan officers. But notice the term I use new, not loan officer, right?
Yep.
So it's a category, right?
Yep.
And this is the thing I began to realize that categorically speaking, you can develop your own people that you hang around with, at who you are, what you are, and the things that you do, and you become the expert inside that community. And I promise you, this that I have now, I'm telling everybody, I keep thinking Facebook's going to call me and said, "Hey, Paul, you're at 50,000. We're going to start charging you now." Right? I keep thinking they're going to say, "Hey, we're going to need," and you know what I'm probably going to say? Well, how much do you need? Right? How
Yep.
much do I need to pay you? Right? Because I might be willing to do it. And you know, in the world of marketing, they call that shooting fish in a barrel.
That's
Right?
right. Yep.
That's what I'm doing. It's inside that group. They all see my name. They see my name 2, 3, 4 times a day. Right?
Hmm. Yep.
So again, if you're a loan officer, old, new, young, getting started, if you start a group around a category of people, I'm telling you, it's a great place to do it, and it costs you no money.
Yep. That's right.
It's free. You better take advantage of it while it's free.
Yeah.
Because again, I keep thinking they're going to charge us for this. Yeah.
Good. Paul, leave it on a high note, brother. Thank you so much for taking the time
All
and
right, man.
for
I enjoyed
sharing.
talking with you.
Likewise.
All
And
right.
thank you for all that you do for the industry as well.
All right, buddy. I'll see you.
Man, all the best.
Bye bye.